This week's episode is brought to you by Stand Up Records, the funniest comedy in the world. Look for the debut release of Fancy Ray McCloney's The Best Looking Man in Comedy, available March 27th. Visit standuprecords.com to get your copy of Fancy Ray McCloney's The Best Looking Man in Comedy and to find all the funniest comedy in the world. That's standuprecords.com.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to an all-new episode of the Art of Bombing podcast. I'm your host, Dan Bublitz Jr. Hope everybody had a fantastic week. Thanks for tuning back in if you're a returning listener. If it's your first time listening to the podcast, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Today on the show, I have a great guest. My guest is Nick Hoff. He's a fantastic comedian based in Los Angeles, California. He regularly opens for Larry the Cable Guy, and he has his own podcast, the Hoffcast. Go check that out. You can go visit his website, nickhoff.com, see where he's going to be touring. He tours all over the country. So that's what's going to be coming up on the show today. Before we get to that, a couple of things. I've got some shows coming up. I got some really good news this last week. I got booked to film a dry bar comedy special. Woo! Yay! Cue the applause, right? I'm very excited about this. If you're not familiar with what dry bar comedy is, they're an app and a website that does comedy specials, but it's clean comedy. It's super clean comedy, and a lot of their videos and the clips go viral, and they get millions and millions of views. So it's a pretty big deal. Pretty excited about that. So to everybody that's helped me along the way, that has given me stage time, and kept pushing me to do comedy and supporting me, I want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate all the support that I've got from everybody. It means the world to me. The taping itself will be April 3rd, 2020 in Provo, Utah. So if you're listening and you live in that area, you can come see the taping live. April 3rd, 2020. That'll be available. The dates, all that information will be on my website, danbublitz.com, along with my other tour dates, because I will be getting ready for this now. I'm going to be hitting the shows really hard. I'll be doing a lot of open mics around the cities and then doing shows as well. A couple dates that I have upcoming. March 6th and 7th, I will be at the Laugh Camp Comedy Club. I'll be hosting that weekend, so go check that out. And then March 13th, I will be at Oh So Good in Garretson, South Dakota. So there's a couple live tour dates. You can check me out. All that information is available on my website, danbublitz.com. Now let's get into the other business. Before we get into this conversation with Nick, I just want to say thank you guys for listening. If you haven't done so already, be sure you subscribe. Make sure you head over to YouTube, the Art of Bombing Podcast YouTube page, and subscribe there too, because now I'm going to be releasing videos. This is the first full episode that's going to be released as a video, and hopefully you guys will like it. So be sure you subscribe there. If you don't watch video, you don't want to listen to it on YouTube, that's cool. Make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure you share this with somebody. Tell a friend that might enjoy this podcast that they should check this podcast out. And while you're there, subscribing, leave a nice little 5-star review. I would really appreciate it if you'll leave a 5-star review. Maybe say some nice words. If you don't like the podcast and you don't find it helpful and you don't want to leave nice words, that's fine. Just don't say anything. That's all we want there. Now, one quick thing, and if you want to contribute financially, and like I said, the best way to contribute is leaving that review. But if you have a little bit of money that you want to help with the show that goes into the production of the show, if you think what we're doing here is good and you're gaining useful knowledge from the things that we're doing and it's helping and you'd like to contribute, you absolutely can. You can head over to the artofbombingpod.com, put a little donation in the tip jar, and be on your merry way. And if you don't want to contribute financially, that's cool too. Nobody's asking you to. All I want is for everybody to get better together, and that's what we're doing, trying to get better at comedy by learning from our failures. So, without further ado, let's get into this episode. This is my great conversation with Nick Hoff. Enjoy.
everything's like monthly subscription
yeah,
now.
subscription now.
Screw you, Adobe.
Right? It's subscription, and I've heard that depending on what you want, like some of it, I have a friend that has a couple of them, and he said some of the stuff is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
For the monthly, like if you just want like Illustrator,
Sure.
to, like to get the host suite, or even to get like Photoshop, like it gets real expensive.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy unless you're using it all the time.
Yeah, and I don't use that stuff enough to.
Yeah.
The editing that I'm doing is not that complicated. I'm not editing no feature films, so.
Right. Well, I'm thinking about getting. I just shot this comedy short that's got a ton of footage, and like anytime I just do my shows, I just like throw it in iMovie.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all I'm doing is like maybe doing a little audio adjustment or something, and then putting it out in whatever format I want.
Yeah,
Cutting it
mostly
down.
it's just cutting it down.
Cutting it down,
Right,
like
yep.
this is the 5 minutes I need or whatever.
Yep.
So iMovie does that, but my buddy's like, you gotta get Final Cut if you're gonna put this one together.
And maybe. I mean, there's other programs out there. Like I said, but for me, I just learned with Sony Vegas products. Well, now I think it's called Max or something, Creative Max or something. They changed their software name
Gotcha.
a little bit, but either way, that's what I've been using just because it was cheap. I could get like a host suite for like $100 and some bucks, and of course, it doesn't have like all the capabilities of a professional suite did, but it had enough to like make some short films because that's why I got it. I used to do short films, and that's why I started editing and learning how to do that myself. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you were at the Laugh Camp last night.
Yes, I was.
Yeah, in the good old St. Paul. Show
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah, the whole downstairs was pretty much full.
Yeah,
There were a few
yeah,
seats on the right that were open, but nobody went up to the upper deck.
yeah.
So,
Which I think that's kind of a weird layout anyway. Like,
it's
I guess
strange.
I mean, for that upper level, 'cause
It's a little bit like there's kind of remind me of the room in Appleton. That's the Skyline Comedy Club. They've got like an upper little area, and also their club in Tacoma has like an upper little. But I kind of like being able to play to both. But there was just nobody in the upper
just
one,
nobody
so
to
there's
play.
no reason to play.
Well, that upper level, I mean, if it was like in the back where it was like an upper level or whatever, it kind of makes it a little different. But it's like right next to the stage. I mean, you can
Right.
literally walk onto the stage
I
from
kinda
that
like
upper
that,
level.
yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Just go up there and touch somebody.
Yeah, you can just walk right out into the crowd and not even have to worry about falling off the stage.
Exactly.
Yeah, they do an open mic on Mondays there that I try to go to when I can, but then I've hosted there a couple times too. But
Yeah, it's not a bad spot.
No,
it's not
it's
a bad
not.
spot. They
no,
a couple things, but I think even the best clubs, I'm like, oh, there's a couple things.
oh,
that-
there's always gonna
there's
be
never a perfect
no,
situation
there's
or
no
a
such
perfect
thing.
show.
No such thing as perfect. If there was, everybody would do comedy. Oh wait, everybody does try to do comedy.
Seems
What am
like
I
it.
talking about?
Seems like it. Every Uber I take, when they say, "What are you going for?" Oh, stand up. I got to come up with something other than stand up. I got to just start lying. I'm in textiles.
I'm just
But anytime
business.
just general
what kind
business.
of business do you do?
dude.
Oh, just general
You know,
business.
general business.
Pushing numbers around paper and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Charts, Excel,
Business stuff.
Because anytime I say it in an Uber or Lyft, they're always like, "Oh, my cousin does stand up," or
Oh,
my
yeah.
best buddy does stand up. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, what's his name? Joe Schmo." Oh, never heard of him.
Yeah,
okay.
never heard of him. Yeah. Well, that's how it's kind of like that the situation when you tell somebody where you're from. Like you'll be somewhere and you're like, oh, I'm from Nebraska.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, my brother lives in Nebraska. And they'll
Uh-huh.
like tell you the name like you're supposed to know him.
One time that happened, and I knew exactly who they were talking about, and I was like, "Oh, damn it! Now you think there are only two people in Nebraska?" They're like, "Do you know Steve Anderson?" I was like, Dan and Teresa's parents? And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, dang it, I know him." And they're like, "Oh, I knew. I thought you might."
Okay, so that's the one time where
Yeah, the one time. I
the
was
one
like, "There's
time
no way I
where
know this
that
guy."
happens. But a lot of the times it's like, yeah, I don't know that person. We're from the same state. That I don't know them.
Right.
In fact, we're from opposite sides of the state.
I can see him from my house, but that's about it. Who's this
too
guy?
funny. I honestly don't know who that guy is. He
It's like a Knight of the Round Table.
I know, that's why I kind of liked it. I found it when I worked in California. When I lived in California, when I was in San Diego, where we met, I was my day job. I worked for an estate liquidation company, and what they did is they bought estates, and then they
mostly sold them online. Like they sold through eBay and Amazon,
Like
and
people's
things
personal
they
estates,
bought,
so
like,
they
estates.
go
So,
in
like,
and
if
they sell their furniture
somebody was-
online.
yep.
And this guy also liked to collect matches. So
Yep.
he's got a whole bunch of matches.
Yep. They would, artwork, you name
Yeah.
it, like all kinds of stuff. If somebody was retiring and wanted to go to a smaller, instead of just doing like a rummage sale, they could just go to these people and then they would buy the whole estate and then they resell it. And so when I was working there, that's just something that came through, and I couldn't, there's no like identifiers on it,
Right.
Because I'd learned how to like identify things. You look for like, signatures and things like that, and try to find it
Yeah.
online to research it. And I couldn't find anything for it. It just looked cool.
A dead person whittled that. And
Probably
kept it in their house.
Probably painted it, and then
See, so the artist of this is dead. So
Probably.
it's worth
It's-
a lot more.
I haven't seen anything like it anywhere either. So
When Terry made it,
right,
it's worth more now.
It probably is.
I like it.
Like a lot of my art.
It's
It'll
pretty
probably
cool.
worth more after I'm dead.
He's not a great knight. His eyes are closed, like he's just standing there on the job, but
Sleeping.
just having a little snooze.
Right? He's just guarding. He's just like,
Come on, man.
how
Ezekiel, chop chop.
Let's get up, man. Yeah, but it's just cool. And I was always into Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy stuff when I was
Sure.
younger.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was like, this is cool. So I asked them how much they wanted for it, and they, I don't know, maybe like $20 or whatever. I was like, yeah, why not?
Nice.
Cool, I'll take it. So that's the story behind my little statue.
I like it.
And just
I like the
just-
story statue.
just like adds something to my little studio up here. Everything's it's a very collective situation up here.
Yeah, it is.
A little bit of everything.
It's a cool room up here too.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
I live in Los Angeles. If just this area right here would be like 3 bedrooms.
It would be literally. There would be a bed.
Be like, well, I can
3
have a bigger
beds in a
family
row.
now.
Yeah, I believe that. So this podcast is about bombing.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I'm sure you've been doing comedy a long time. I'm sure you've had a couple shows that
There's
weren't
been a few
so
sprinkled
great.
in there.
A few. So we'll get into that and let you talk about a show that you thought was, one of your worst bombs or
Okay.
one of the worst shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, so go for it. Let's hear what you're
You want to hear the worst bomb?
or a bomb that one that you want to tell. It's
Gotcha.
up to you.
I mean, any comic that's been doing it for a little while, they've all had horrible shows.
absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
of course, it's relative. Like I was speaking with a comic the other day, and we were talking about like I've never really had just the silent all the way through, like whatever it is. If you're doing 10 minutes, I've never had like just absolute dead silence for 10 straight minutes. But sometimes a laugh can feel almost like you can tell that they're just laughing to help you.
Yeah, it's pity.
It's a pity. It's a pity laugh.
It's a pity laugh.
Which is worse maybe than silence. Sometimes,
Yep.
sometimes you're saying it and you're like, okay, this isn't going well. This new joke's not hitting. And then you hear somebody do it and you're like, you almost look at them like, I wish you had just stayed quiet because that hurts me worse.
Yep.
That little thing that you just did tells me that it's gotten so poorly that you have gone past not laughing and now you're like, I better do something before this guy takes his life.
Yep. That's exactly it.
No, I don't need a pity laugh. I don't need a pity. I can tell it's not a good joke from the lack of response. I don't need.
It's kind of like that too when you tell a joke that doesn't hit and you hear a comic in the back, like you hear a laugh from the back, and you're like, yeah, they're not laughing. They're laughing at me because they know the joke was terrible.
Yes.
Like the joke bombed. They're not laughing because of the humor of that. They're laughing at it's funny that I'm bombing right now.
You want the comics to laugh at you so bad, but not in that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And that because you know exactly what that laugh is. It's
Yep.
them getting severe enjoyment out of your pain.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
That's all. That's the only reason my wife will come to shows anymore. She doesn't want to see me do well. She wants to see me eat it. That's her pleasure.
Oh, that's funny. That.
So yeah, I'll tell a story about my most recent bomb, which is only a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really? Wow.
Just a couple weeks ago, I was doing 25 minutes at a bar show. And I had done this bar show before, and it's usually decent. And so I was like, I didn't really prepare for it too much. I just kind of like had the new stuff that I wanted to work on, and then I was going to just sandwich it with the classics, right? And right away, just nothing. There was a guy with like a leg cast sitting close to the front of the stage, and I like almost instantly I saw him because he's this big burly dude. He looks like the Mountain from Game of Thrones. That's what he looks like. So I'm like, oh, the Mountain's here, like, and then I see he's got a cast, like, the Mountain's injured. What's going on, man? And he like goes, you don't want to hear about it. And of course, now I absolutely have to hear about it. And so now the show is at a dead stop. I've only been on stage for like 40 seconds. And now that
Challenge accepted.
I'm not even into my first joke. And I'm like, now I have to hear, like you just said, now I have to know, like, the story. And it was a sad story. It was a horrific, sad, the guy's going to lose his foot.
Oh, no.
It was like, oh, hell. So yeah, I get into that. And that takes me like 4 minutes of my 25 right off the bat, and it's going nowhere. I'm like dragging information out of him, and the information that I get out is just horrific. Like, this guy's gonna lose a leg. It's not good. He didn't lose it, and like he like fell off a bridge. Like,
oh no,
that's kind of funny if you're watching it on YouTube, but when the guy's there and you see the injury and now it's gonna cost him his leg, that's not funny. And everybody, so people are losing interest. I'm trying to dig my way out of this, but there's no digging. I can't go back to like, so I have a kid, you got, like, I can't go back to like puppy dog stuff. This guy's going to lose a leg. We've already set the precedent. So now I got to do, in my mind, I got to go dark. Like if there's going to be one saving grace of this, it has to be dark. We have to make light of the situation that this guy's going to lose his leg, and it never worked. It never worked. I kept like trying to go back to that well. You ever like get in with an audience member and you think I can spin gold here?
Oh yeah, because then it's like it's like almost when you like lose somebody or not necessarily even lose somebody. It's like you could have a whole crowd and you're doing fine and the whole crowd is laughing.
Yeah.
But you see that one guy or one person in the audience with their arms crossed.
Yes.
With just a smug look on their face, and all you can do is focus on them, and you're like, okay, I don't care about the rest of the audience right now.
Exactly.
I want them to laugh. That's all I care about now.
You know, that used to really affect me too until I was working in Tahoe with Rhodes. What's Tom Rhodes?
Tom Rhodes, yeah.
I was opening for Tom Rhodes at this a very funny comic, by the way. I was working with him at this casino there at the Improv in Tahoe, and he goes, "Come here, I want to show you something." Because they've got it's the Hard Rock Casino, or it's something
like that,
Hard Rock themed, where they've got a bunch of memorabilia, and they had a picture on the wall of Elvis Presley, like this big old poster of Elvis Presley, and he's like in his heyday, like he's still young, he's shaking his hips, and it's just like hundreds and hundreds of women in the crowd, and they're all screaming, like women are like weeping,
excited,
and, like reaching out for him. Like, he is killing it. He is the top of his game. He's just absolutely murdering everything. Everyone loves him. And Tom points to one lady in the crowd who's just standing there stone-faced with her arms crossed. And he goes,
wow.
And he set the whole picture up. He's like, this guy's killing it. You know, everything he touches is gold. Everybody loves him. And yet this bitch isn't buying it. And he like points at this one lady. And that somehow made me feel better when I see like one person. I'm like, you know what? Even Elvis at his peak, there was somebody in that audience that was like, I don't get it.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Right?
I'm gonna take that with me because that's
it made
amazing.
me
I'm gonna
feel
see if
better
I find that picture actually.
About the one person. It's like if you're ever in Tahoe at that Improv, it's like you walk out and it's to the right, kind of by the, I don't know if there are craps tables there or what, but it's really close to the room.
Really close. Okay.
And every time I think about that, every time I see one person not enjoying him, I was like, you know what?
Yep. Even Elvis didn't get understood all the time.
So the bomb, so I just couldn't turn it around. And people started like talking at their tables, and I was losing. Like, even if I wanted to do good jokes, kind of at about 7 minutes in, even if I wanted to like do good jokes, that everybody was kind of off put at this point. So there was nothing. I was just digging for crowd work, and there were little nuggets here and there, but by and large, it was pretty brutal. And I closed out my set, kind of how I always do, just like throw the best joke you got at him. And it got a smattering of, and so I just walked out. 25 minutes, checked my watch. Okay, done. That's it for me. And I walked off, and the promoter was there, and he just kind of looked at me. I've done 50 shows for him, and I've done well. But this one, he just goes, I go, huh. And he goes, yeah. Like, didn't even try and fake it.
Didn't even want to talk to
Some
him.
people bomb and they come off. You're like, no, it was good. He just goes, yeah.
That's funny.
And the worst part about it in my mind, because it's like then all you want to do is get your money and get out of there.
Oh
That-
yeah, absolutely.
That's it. I'm not sticking around for after the show to like talk to people. I'm not gonna do that. Like, just give me my money. Let me get the hell out of here. And so he pays me, and he's like, "All right, see you next time." I'm like, whatever. And I walk out, and my car doesn't start.
Oh no!
So now I am stuck at this. Like, I have AAA, so they were coming, but my battery was toast, and so now I'm stuck at this bar for an extra hour, just waiting for the AAA guy. And
Oh my god, were you just sitting in your car, or did you go back?
no,
in?
I went back. Well, I went back because I thought, okay, maybe the promoter will give me a jump. Maybe that'll happen. Like, even with AAA, you're like, it's still easier to jump it. Like,
Oh
let's
yeah,
just do that.
absolutely.
So I go and I was like, hey, I got jumper cables. Will you mind jumping my car? And he goes, it's actually a lease. So they told me I can't mess with anything. I don't
Oh,
feel
no.
comfortable. I'm like, come on. Like, I can see a kid not knowing, like, to jump a car, but this is like a 50-year-old man. Like, jumping a car is not going to cause a problem with your car,
Yeah.
especially if
And
it's
if
a
it
lease.
does, that's not a good situation.
Right, especially if it's a lease. Like, you should be banging that thing around. Like,
Yeah.
right? Am I wrong?
No, I just as long as you don't go over the mileage, it's
Don't
fine.
go over the mileage, but whatever. Jump everybody.
Other
Like,
than
who
that,
gives-
yeah.
and I don't know if I had a good set, he would have jumped me. Maybe that crossed my mind. I was like, is this because I tanked? Is this because I put your bar show in jeopardy?
You're like, I'm gonna show him. Come to my show and bomb. I'm not jumping you, man.
Listen,
I don't want what you have.
I don't want to be around you. You got some bad juju going on.
I don't want to jeopardize what I have.
You bombed here. Your car died. Everything you're touching off.
You're just a walking bomb today, kid.
That was my most recent bomb, and I would say every year you have a couple.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's part of the game because there's just like, and it goes back to what you're talking about with Elvis. Some people just aren't going to get what you're doing, and comedy is so subjective. Like it's just some people just don't like certain things, and if you talk about those certain things,
Right.
or if they can't relate to them, it's like. I know comics that do a lot of stuff about having kids and stuff. And
Yeah.
while I can appreciate what they're doing because I'm a comedian and I see what they're doing,
Yeah.
but the subject material has no interest to me because I don't have children. I
Sure,
don't know.
yeah.
I can't relate, you know.
Yep.
But a regular person who isn't doing comedy, if they don't have kids and they can't relate, they're going to be disinterested in what you're talking about. And that's just, and it doesn't matter. It could be, somebody that's, if you drink and you're talking about partying and they're sober people. It's like that whole.
You're not going to get everybody.
No, you're not.
And what's the famous quote? I forget who said it. It may have been even somebody horrible like Cosby or something. Like, you'll never get anywhere by trying to please everybody or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, there's truth to that. You can't can't cast a wide net. I do jokes about my kids, and I used to have a joke about like the soft spot on top of their head, and like how they can. And the joke was the kid like realized at a super young age, like 6 weeks in, he's like, no, I'm not hanging out with you guys for the first 18 years, and he pushes his own button. And I did that joke, and it's funny, it's ridiculous. It's a 6-week-old like pushing their own reset button.
Yeah.
And a lady came up to me after, you should not do that joke because my friend had her grandchild die 2 weeks ago, and you should never do that. I'm like, I'm very sorry. That's a horrible thing, but this is a joke. Like.
And then did you ask? Did she push her own?
Is that what happened? Did she realize she couldn't be around you?
She
Like,
pushed
my
her own
mom's
button?
friend sucks, or my grandma just has terrible taste in comedy. Boo! Just gone.
Oh man, that would have been hilarious, and also probably horrible. She probably would have been pretty mad at that.
Yes. Yeah. No. All you can
But-
do is apologize,
yeah,
but you
yeah.
can't. I've had people message me and they want to control what I say. I'm not like, and you've seen my act. I'm
Oh,
not like
yeah.
a dicey, edgy
No,
guy.
not at all.
But if I say I was on an airplane the other day, there's a chance somebody knew someone who's died on an airplane.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's you. Like you said, you can't please everybody, and you don't know everybody's situation. There's going to be one thing that triggers one person, and there's, like you said, all you can do in the moment is if they approach you about it, just apologize and move on, because you're not gonna get them. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like if somebody uses a word they shouldn't
Right.
all the time, eventually it's gonna catch up to them.
Yeah, that's
Like-
I don't like these people that say, "Well, what about free speech? I should be able to say what you can."
Absolutely.
This is a consequence of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Say
you can
what
eat whatever you want, but when you have a heart attack, guess what? There's your consequence.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about this situation, where it's like, you get it, but it's also like, okay, I'm defending my, the right to say whatever. But I also understand there's consequences with them,
Right,
with
right.
what saying whatever. It's just like I seen, and I don't know this person, but I, you know how there's a bunch of Facebook groups for comedy and stuff, and
Uh-huh.
there was a comic from, I want to say Canada. I think she was from Canada. Did a show in Vegas and used the N word and like
Oh.
caused a whole bunch of drama there.
Yeah, that's
And
not good.
to the point where like a lot of the people in Vegas don't want. They like started banning her from shows, and then I think she kind of got banned from some stuff in California. Like
Yeah.
she made a real bad reputation, and it's been going all over these Facebook groups. And now I saw because somebody had posted something about like she's banned from the U.S. for not having the appropriate visas or something, and she set up like a GoFundMe to try to like raise money to get her legal stuff situated or something.
What?
Yeah, it's
I
like
hope it didn't succeed.
I don't think it's gonna succeed. I'm sure it's not because she's got this particular comic has a lot of heat. Like I said, I don't know the comic personally. I just
Has a lot of heat, like as in is doing very well.
No. As in, a lot of people don't want that comic around.
Oh, okay.
Bad heat. Not
Bad
good
heat.
Bad heat.
She's got a lot of fire.
On fire. Yeah, she's on fire. People want to burn her down.
Nobody's putting her out.
She's beyond cancel culture is what's going on there.
See, yeah, the N-word. Even if there were no black people in the audience, you can't use the N-word because people will be offended in the audience on someone's behalf, but that person would have also been offended.
Oh, absolutely.
So then there's just no use for that word. And hate-filled words, I don't like that. Those are ugly things. Like even if you just say something that doesn't have one of those words, but it's hate-filled. See, that's not the kind of comedy I gravitate toward. Some people really like that kind of comedy. I'm not that guy.
And it goes, comedy's subjective, to each their own. I'm the same way. Like I'm not big into, any kind of comedy that's hateful or hurtful or, unless, especially like, and I suppose that's why, like, for me, I'm not a big, I can find the humor in it, and sometimes it's funny, but like roasts and stuff, it's just a bunch of people being mean to each other.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, I can see where it's funny, but it's not.
There's always a little bit of truth to what they're saying.
Oh, absolutely, but it's just not my style, because it's more of a hurtful.
Yeah, that's why
trying to be. Yeah,
I was asked one time to do one of those roast battles, and I said no. I'm not going to do that because I could only do that against like a really, really good friend.
Yep.
Where it's like we are buddies beyond.
I know that if I say
this.
something really terrible, you're not going to actually be hurt and upset
Yes.
about it. That kind of,
I don't want to cut somebody down I barely know. Like that's
Yep.
what a horrible thing. And it would come out mean out of I could not sell it as a because I'm like, oh, I don't really know you, and now I've researched this just for mean purposes.
Yeah,
I'm looking for flaws here. Is this what you wanted to be? Is put under a microscope? Is this making people happy?
Trying to be an a-hole here.
Like, my God, it's like looking at yourself in one of those magnifying mirrors. It's not a good look.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's why, like, for that, it's like I don't need somebody else to be mean to me. I'm mean to myself enough.
Exactly.
I do enough self-deprecating humor. I don't need.
That should be a show. You just roast yourself.
That is actually.
Is it a show?
Well, kind of.
Of course,
there's
everything.
We actually just had it at our festival. Mike Perry is a comic from Nebraska, and he has a show called Roast Yourself. And what it is the comics go up and do their sets.
Okay.
And then there's a panel of comics that write roast jokes.
Gotcha.
And then that comic, when they're done with their set, they take those jokes and they read the jokes.
So it's like mean tweets, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. But they're reading the roast that these roasters just did.
Okay.
And it was a fun show.
It's good. It's good. The audience doesn't groan or like feel like.
No, it was one of the funnest shows I've watched.
Nice.
I laughed so hard because it's so funny to see the comics reaction because they're reading these themselves.
Right.
And
so they're hearing them for the first time as they're reading them.
As they're reading them, and they're
That's
laughing
funny.
at some
That's
of the
funny.
stuff.
Can you see this online?
We did tape it. Oh, his show. I think there's a sample of his show online.
Okay.
Our show that we did at the, because he did it at our festival. We've got video of it, but it's not posted anywhere yet.
Gotcha.
Festival was just a couple weeks ago. So,
can I tell you a fake bomb story?
Oh, sure.
So this is so I tour with Larry the Cable Guy and Jeff Foxworthy, and
name drop. No,
here it is.
Oh.
And we went on the road for like 2 years for one of their tours, and And in the beginning, I was just very much walking on eggshells, like not doing anything. But over the course of time, you get comfortable with people, and so I played a prank on Foxworthy at one of the hotels. I got there first, and I had the people behind the counter at the check-in desk in on it with me, and we put him, and he traveled with his manager, who's been his best friend since like kindergarten. We put him in the same room, the honeymoon suite, like with flowers and stuff like that. I thought that was hilarious, and it was pretty funny. And the lady behind the counter like sold it, the whole thing. They like put like the key in this like little heart shaped container, and they're like, "We're so happy that you guys are celebrating here with us." And they're looking at each other. I think you got the wrong guy. No. And then they see me over in the corner laughing. And Jeff's like, "Okay, Nick, you poked the bear a little bit." And so we had 3 shows that weekend. We were starting there in New Hampshire. We did a show there. And I'm thinking, okay, what's he going to do? He's going to put like a rubber snake in my suitcase or something. It's going to be stupid. And then it was either the second or third show. I think it was the third show of the weekend. So we had gone now 2 days.
No retaliation.
No retaliation. No Counter-Strike. And I think, okay, it was funny for him to say that. And then we get to Cincinnati, where one of my best friends from college lived, who hadn't seen me do comedy in probably 5 years. And another one of my college buddies had flown in, and so we were all gonna like hang out that day and then hang out that night. And so we're doing this big theater in Cincinnati, and I'm down in the green room talking to my buddies, and I had introduced them to Jeff and Larry, and I felt like, okay, I'm a little validated here.
Yeah.
When you start comedy, everybody's like, "Oh, you're a comedian, huh?"
Yeah.
But then now I'm like doing a real show with a lot of people, and I feel good about it. And at those shows, I was only doing like 7-8 minutes, so it was just top heavy with my best stuff. And I go out on stage, and my friends are like waiting like side stage, so they're gonna watch me do this. And I go up and I say my first line, which it had always gotten a reaction. It had always gotten a laugh. The first, because I go out there, people weren't anticipating that it was me out there. And my first line was always, "Who the hell is this guy?" Right? And it always got a laugh because that's exactly what people were thinking as I walked out there. And I said that, nothing. 0. 2,800 people, not one person is like even scoffing. I'm like, whew, okay. So I just like, get right into it. Here's my first joke. Just swing and a miss. Just 0. Again, one of my best jokes just dies. And now I'm like, oh, you guys okay? Like I'm talking to the audience. Like, what just happened? Did I say it wrong? Did something happen in here weird? Did somebody like the mayor of Cincinnati die? And everybody just got the news. I'm like, everybody okay in here? And they're like, "You good?" Just staring at me. Okay. And now like sweat is starting to come down my temple. I'm like, oh no, like all my friends are over here. Like we're a minute or 2 in now, and my friends are over here just watching me eat it so horribly in front of so many people. I go into another joke. Nothing. Another joke. Nothing. And now I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? Like one guy looks at me like I just spit on his dog. I'm like, what? And I look over to the side, and I see like 7 cell phone cameras up with the light on, and I'm like, what in the hell? And I look back at the audience, and a guy in like the 3rd row stands up with a big poster board that says, "Courtesy of Jeff Foxworthy." And I look back over, and they are laughing their ass off, and then the whole crowd realizes the jig is up, and everybody starts cracking up. He had gone on stage while I was down in the green room with my friends and told everybody, whatever he does, do not laugh. Do not make a noise. Do not chuckle. Don't interact with him. Give him 0. But I'm having a heart attack on stage. Like in my head, I'm writing my retirement speech. Like this is it. I'm just bombing in front of my 2 of my best friends in the world, 2,800 people, Jeff Foxworthy and Larry. And I should have known because they almost never watched me after the first couple nights of the tour. They almost never came up to see and they were standing there. I should have known something weird was going on when they were standing there. But I was like, more people want to come see what the Hoff's got to offer. And so then, my heart's going a million miles an hour. I still got 4 or 5 minutes to do, so I do those. But in between each joke, I'm just like, I hate you guys. They're laughing at my jokes. I'm like, I still hate you. You can't buy back affection now. I hate all of you. So that
Wow.
was
That's a great retaliation.
yeah. But I
Like,
was
that's
tapping out then. I was like, that's it.
I'm comedy is done. New career. Let's talk about them Excel spreadsheets and flow charts.
That might have ended it. That might have ended my career if that had continued at that.
if that was a
pace.
real situation.
I couldn't
I'm
have
sure.
looked my friends in the eye
Oh,
after that.
no. That's funny though, because that's a good prank too. Just the fact that he waited.
Right.
So like the timing, like you're like, nothing's gonna happen now. He was just kidding.
Let it breathe a little bit.
Yep.
I had almost forgotten about it. Like, yeah, had it been that same night, I might have been like, oh, I know what's happening here.
Yeah, but because of the time
Oh,
between.
the whole thing. It was the
Oh, that's
perfect
great.
storm. They sent me the video. I've got it somewhere. I should post that at some point.
You should.
But
That's hilarious
it's
because that's a
dramatic
great
still.
prank. That's like a viral video right there. Where
It's
you're
next
like,
level.
Jeff Foxworthy pranks opener.
Right?
Because that.
Oof.
Yeah, that's hilarious. It's good that that people like that have a good sense of humor, though. You
Right,
know what I
right.
mean? Like, because he could have been a different person, whereas like he didn't think that was funny,
Right.
And it's like, oh, you're fired or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whatever. So it's good that people have a good sense of humor and they're willing to have a good time like that, and then just have fun with it because that's hilarious. That's a way better. That's a way better retaliation than firing somebody.
Yeah, it was a good, and I'm sure the people of the show loved it. They got to be a part of something.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
They got to be involved and have a
Mhm.
little extra interaction.
Somebody got to hold a sign.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so great.
Oof.
Oh man,
That one hurt.
I'll bet. That was. God, that's funny. So have you ever pranked him since?
No. That was it.
Lesson learned.
That was it. Tapping out. Like, you get 2,800 people on your side. Nope. We're not doing it. And like, I'm not gonna lie. I've had thoughts of, well, I go on stage first. I could get everybody to do something. I'm like, no, they are all fans of him. They don't care about me. They're not
Right.
gonna
Yep.
help me out. They wanted to help him.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
they like him. They hate
They
me.
paid to see him. They're like, I don't know who this guy
I don't know
is.
this turd. So
I think that's great though that they were able to keep their to
Yes.
commit to that an audience of 2,800 people were able to commit to not
Right.
laughing because
yes.
laughter's contagious. All it would have took is a couple people to start laughing at something, and then
And people
the whole
might have
crowd-
boiled over because they realized what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been that awkward, like, this
Yep.
is really funny.
But
They held it together until I figured it out, which was several minutes in. I think it was 3 minutes in when I
Oh,
figured it
wow.
out, and I looked over and I could, and then I, like, the detective inside of my head put
Just
all
like,
the pieces together, the little
Uh.
rocks inside my brain were scrambling, like, what's happening? Oh God!
I get it now.
And it was relief and anger and happiness and all those emotions all mixed into
Just-
one at the same time, and bewilderment. It was everything all at once.
And a lesson learned.
Exactly right.
There you go. If you're listening to this, don't pull a prank on Foxworthy. He will get his retaliation.
He got it. He did his thing.
That's great. The bumming of bombing, which is that dreadful feeling you get after you bomb, typically, how long does that last for you when you do bomb?
It used to last longer.
Yeah.
It used to last long. Usually, for me, it's only until my next set, which is usually the next day or sometimes
Yeah.
even the same night.
Yeah, depending on where you're at.
Yeah, it hurts a little bit when, and I wouldn't call it bombing, but sometimes you're doing a club and the Sunday show is the least favorite of the shows sometimes. And you're just like, okay, that one didn't feel as good. Like, you just came off the high of Friday, Saturday, and now you do Sunday to a half-empty audience that's just tired and they're eking a little bit of fun out and at the end of the week, and it's not the best feeling. And it's not a bomb, but then it sticks with you for a few days until you get
Mhm.
on stage again because you're like, ugh, maybe I'm not as funny as I thought I was. I was just crushing, and now that's it. I would say, yeah, it just lasts until the next time I get on stage.
And then what do you try to do? What are you trying to do to get better? As far as like if you have a bad set, what do you look at the set and try to analyze it to figure out what happened and
No.
like how you don't ever do that?
Not after a bomb.
Not after a bomb.
After a bomb, I usually like make sure I don't ever listen to that.
Really?
And it's probably a bad thing. I probably should listen and try and get better at that. But a lot of times I can identify what happened, where it went wrong.
While you're on stage.
And most of the time with me, it's because I tried to make something out of nothing in crowd work.
Oh, we're very the same in that aspect because I'm kind of the same way when I'm not good at crowd work. And, well, I'm not saying that you're not.
No,
but
right,
what I'm saying,
right.
But when sometimes there's situations where my set is bad because I tried to make something out of something and it just ended up being super awkward.
Well, crowd work is not the first thing you do. You
Yeah.
start with the act, and if that's not going well, then you go to crowd work, and sometimes that's able to bounce back and get things back on the track.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, we can go back to material here. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you try and bounce it back on the track, and it really goes off the rails, and you're like, oh hell. And I guess that's why I'm blaming crowd work. So I guess I should really blame the act. Because the act is what caused me to go to crowd work.
Crowd work, yeah.
Like
See, if you would have listened to your set, you wouldn't know.
Well, now all I had to do was your podcast, and I can learn. I have to listen to this torture again.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that's fair too. Yeah. My problem is I always try to do something at the beginning to hey, I'm in the room, so maybe make a joke that pertains to whatever the situation is, and then it doesn't hit, and then I'm like, well, now I just made it awkward.
Yes. If that little,
which I try to make a conscious effort not to do that.
You try and make a conscious effort to not riff off the room or something
all the time, because that's unless I know it's going to be something really solid.
Right.
Because I've noticed more times than not, it doesn't come out as funny as I think it is, and then it makes it awkward, and then I have to try to gain them back.
Well, last night I said something right up because this is my first time in St. Paul, Minnesota, doing shows, and I said something about being, St. Paul, the second most well-known of the Twin Cities or something like that, and it kind of pissed people off, I think.
Oh, I'm sure
they
it did.
took it as a dig, which it really wasn't, but they are the lesser known.
But just at the same time, though, they hear it all. I'm sure they hear it all the time, and so it's
they're the ugly
there's probably a little
bit of Minneapolis.
little bit of a beef between
them.
Yeah.
So I said that right off the bat, and then it took a few minutes to warm them back up to me.
Yep.
But I was in my head, I was like, oh, shouldn't have said that. And I don't like to identify it. I don't like to say it out loud. Some comics like to name the thing that went wrong.
Yeah.
I don't. I like to identify it and then try and get away from it.
Yeah, and then not do it again.
I won't do it tonight.
Yeah, tonight you're gonna be like,
tonight,
I love this city.
St. Paul, #1 in my book. I tell you what, Minneapolis.
There's a reason this is the capital. Oh, that's good. We talk a lot about the bad stuff in comedy, so I like to flip it around and end kind of more on a positive note. Up until this point, and this can be a personal thing, career, either way, doesn't matter. What is something you're really proud of so far in life that you've been able to achieve
outside of comedy?
It can be outside of comedy or comedy. It doesn't have to be specific.
Gotcha. I'm proud that I've got a family. I've got 3 little kids and a wife that I'm able to support with jokes. I'm proud. I never thought that would be the case. I always wanted to do stand-up comedy, but I never thought that'll be what I can I will be able to pay for whatever based on that. And then we're not rich. That's for sure. We are not rich.
Let's make this clear. I'm not bragging that I make a ton of money.
There's no excess, but we're afloat, and I'm proud that I've been able to get to that point, and so.
Oh, well, and that is a huge accomplishment for comedy, because a lot of people think that comedy is like this. They see comics that are getting Netflix specials and they got tons of money and they're making millions of dollars and doing sitcoms and this and that. But the reality is, comedy does not pay that well until you get to that level.
Got to sell tickets.
Yep.
You
You can make a living and support a family doing comedy. That's huge.
Right.
Yeah.
So I've been proud of that, but there's not much else to be proud of.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to do a whole lot else.
Yeah.
As comedians, that's kind of where your focus goes, and you've got that and your life. And I don't know that I've done a whole lot of anything else.
Well, yeah, it's hard. You miss out on a lot of things. That's one thing I've realized with comedy. You make a lot of sacrifices, personally and in career, to do different things or whatever. But it's all part of the chase, really.
Yeah, man.
And then finally, where can people find you? This will come out next week, right after President's Day. So if you got a show that you want to plug,
what is President's Day? The 11th, 17th.
No, it'll be Yeah, like the 17th.
17th is President's
17th.
Day?
Yep.
Okay.
So this will come out on the
right
18th.
there. Okay.
So if you got something after that,
Gotcha.
you can.
Well, all my dates are on my website, nickhoff.com, and I've got links to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So that's an easy place to go to find me anywhere. And, that week I'll be in Calgary at the
Ooh.
Comedy Cave.
Ooh, Canada.
So Canada.
6
straight days. It's too many days.
Oh, that's
for
a lot of
club.
days.
That's too many days. I like the guys that run that club, but every time I'm like, why are we doing Tuesday, Wednesday? Can't we just push everybody to Thursday and just go
That,
Thursday to Sunday?
That used to be like a big thing for a lot of clubs where it was like Tuesday to Sunday. And then,
Yeah.
and now it's more of a, if you're lucky, Thursday to Sunday.
Yeah.
But typically Friday, Saturday.
I don't mind it if you got people in the audience, but if
Oh,
at some
yeah.
point you're like, I think we could have pushed these 20 people over the next day. We didn't have to do
Right.
this. So if you're in Calgary, definitely come to those. Come to the early shows.
Yeah, there's Tuesday, Wednesday.
We
Come
need
out.
people. I think I got specials, and you can get a rib platter. But all my dates and ticket links and stuff like that are on nickhoff.com. I've got links to my podcast on there.
What's
And
your
anytime-
podcast?
My podcast is called the Hoffcast, and it just kind
course.
of follows me on the road. There's another Hoffcast. Some other turd has like
Really?
11 episodes. He just came out this year. Like mine came out a couple years ago, and I'm just like, well, what? Didn't
Is
you
his
look
name
to see
Hoff?
if it was already? I don't even know. I
Oh,
just saw,
man.
like, I just like searched in the like iTunes, whatever, like for my own thing. Because
And it
sometimes I
came
like,
up.
do that,
Yep.
and that one came up. I was like, what the hell's this guy doing? Like, didn't he realize somebody else had that already? Like, and his is about Star Wars or
He
something.
probably did not. Oh, then his name's not Hoff. Isn't that like, that's like a planet?
Is
in
there a
Star-
Hoff planet?
I think there is.
there
I
really?
if you're a Star Wars fan, don't blast me.
Oh,
for
we're
not
coming
knowing my
at the Art of
knowledge.
Bombing podcast. How dare you, you son of a bitch.
I like Star Wars, but I'm not uber fan. But I do think that
That's surprising me, actually, that you're not. 'Cause
I'm
you-
more of a comic book guy.
Well, you've got an R2-D2 thing over there. Like,
Yeah, I do.
you got a Darth Vader bobblehead.
That's Family Guy.
That's a what? Oh,
That's
but that's
Stewie
still a
as
Star Wars
yeah,
thing.
but it is. I mean, I'm a fan, but
You're
I'm not
in
like
the
an uber
realm
fan.
here.
I'm definitely in the realm. I do, but I'm not like I know everything about it. In
Okay.
The realm. All right. You
Well, I
wanna-
didn't
you
even
wanna
know my
test
last name's
knowledge?
Hoff, and I didn't even know
See?
anything about.
And you're giving me a hard time.
But I feel like there was a. I can't look it up that quickly, but I feel like there was a Hutt galaxy, or that's Jabba, and then Han Solo. I feel like I would have known if there was a Hoff planet.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll look it up after.
You'd
the show.
know it
We'll-
if there
we'll-
were a Booblets galaxy.
Oh, I would know. I mean, 'cause
Right?
I would get tagged a lot.
You'd
if
hear it,
that-
and you'd be like, "Oh,
That actually happened on Rick and Morty. There was a character that popped up, Dan Booblets, and I got tagged.
oh,
By a
really?"
bunch of people. Yeah.
But not Junior.
No, it just was Dan Booblets, and then another friend said it was Plublitz, but I don't know. I'm like, whatever. It was still funny.
Yeah.
It was still a neat little thing because it's not like I have a common name, so
Right.
for that
right.
to pop up anywhere is pretty crazy. But all right. Well, check out his website and follow him. And thank you for doing the podcast.
I appreciate. Thanks for having me. Don't cancel me, guys.
The Art of Bombing is a Blitzed Entertainment production. Hosted and produced by Dan Booblitz Jr., the Art of Bombing intro music was written and performed by John Holt. All other music used in this podcast was under the Creative Commons license. If you would like to help the Art of Bombing, you can do so by subscribing, rating, and reviewing our show on whatever podcast application you use to listen to the Art of Bombing. For previous episodes, blogs, and more, visit artofbombingpod.com. Have a great week, and remember, stay safe so you can live to love.